Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. We are from Group 6, consists of Ainin Sofiya, Angel Ivy, Muhamad Badrul and Zahratul Husna. And today, we're going to be presenting about national income. In this presentation, we will tell you about the definition of national income, the differences between GDP and GNP, the uses of national income, the problems in calculating national income, and lastly, a brief explanation on per capita income and growth rate.
First things first, we will try to define the national income. National income can be defined in many ways, one of which is it is defined as the total money of value of all goods and services produced in a country within a given period of time. According to Canton, national income can be used to measure the country's current living standard or distribution of income amongst the citizens. It is an important part of macroeconomics as it is one of the ways to keep count of the aggregate behavior of a country's economic system. Next, we'll be explaining the differences between GDP, which is Gross Domestic Product, and GNP, Gross National Product. GDP, also known as Gross Domestic Product for short, is the total market value of all final goods and services produced by the factors of production within a country in a given period of time. It can be counted through three approaches, which is expenditure by counting C plus I plus G plus export minus import, and an income approach, which is counting wages, salaries, rent, profit, interest, and dividend to gain GDP. And finally, the product approach is counting all final products in the economy itself. According to Fernando, GDP itself represents the whole country's overall domestic production. Meanwhile, GNP, also known as the Gross National Product for short, is the total market value of all final goods and services produced by the residents of a country during a given period of time. GNP counts any income received from abroad made by a country's resident, but it does not count the income made by foreign residents living within the country itself. The difference between the two is that GDP focuses on measuring at the current or constant prices and exclude Malaysians working overseas. This is because GDP only counts the production that releases inside the country itself. In addition to that, GDP also counts any foreign workers that are working in Malaysia, as it is part of factor of production. Meanwhile, GNP only counts the total amount of income earned by citizens of a country. This is where Malaysians working abroad are included here. GNP also can be also called as the sum of GDP. Hence, the calculation to get GNP is by adding GDP plus net factor income from abroad.
There are 5 uses of national income. The first one is standard of living comparison. The next one is distribution of income. The third one is national planning. The fourth one is national expenditure, and lastly is inflationary and deflationary gaps. So, I'm going to explain the first use of national income. Standard of living comparison. With the help of national income data, the government will be able to compare the standard of living of people in different countries with the people of living in the same countries at different times. For example, we can see that in United States of America and also in Japan, they have a higher national income. Therefore, the people have a higher standard of living. So, moving on to the next use of national income, which is the distribution of income. Some wealth of the country belongs to the small group of rich people in a certain country, and sometimes the high national income overshadow the poverty that happens in certain country. Hence, with the existence of national income data, the government will be able to estimate the distribution of income among the people. So, everyone can has a fair amount of income to themselves. The third one is national planning. For national planning, it is very vital for the government to be able to plan the long term and also the short term of the economic planning in order for them to run the government smoothly. Without the national data income, they would not able to do so, and therefore with the existence of national income data, they will be able to forecast the development of future economic planning in the certain country. The fourth one is national expenditure. With the help of national income data, the government will be able to see how much the national expenditure is being divided between consumption expenditure and also investment expenditure. Consumption expenditure is the spending done by the household or by the individuals on goods and services, whereas the investment consumption is the spending used by the government or the firm to create capital assets like buildings or schools and so on. Moving on to the last use of national income, which is inflationary and deflationary gaps. It is important for the government to know, to acknowledge the purchasing power of people, because different people have different purchasing power. Therefore, when they know the different level of purchasing power of different people, it will be better for them so that they can impose anti-inflationary or anti-deflationary measure to make sure the stability of money will be on the very good level.
There are 5 problems in calculating national income. There are double counting, self-consumed production, lack of data finding, false information, and lastly, foreign firm income. The first problem in calculating national income is double counting. Double counting happens when the total of national income includes or some of the intermediate goods that are used for producing many other goods. One of the examples for intermediate good is steel. As we all know, steels are raw materials that are used in producing many other goods such as bicycles and cars. Secondly is the self-consumed production. Self-consumed production can cause non-monetized sector in a country. This is because some producers that produce goods and services will consume it for themselves rather than producing it for commercial selling. This situation can lead to a non-monetized sector in a country. One of the examples, farmers who produce vegetables will consume it for themselves or maybe using it for barter in receiving any other goods. The third problem in calculating national income is lack of data finding. One of the factors of these problems is lack of professionals in a country. For example, those who are expert in statistics and economics is vital in getting the data for the national income. If there are lacks of professionals in a country, the data findings in calculating the national income are not efficient. The fourth problem is false information. False information is a situation where a citizens in a country who doing more than one job disclose their additional income to avoid from paying a higher tax. The last problem in calculating national income is foreign firm income. This is because most of the developed countries such as Malaysia have a partnership with multinational corporation company. Therefore, the total income from this company are not fully for the host country, but some of it owned by the mother company that is located in foreign country. In Malaysia, some of examples of multinational corporations company are Nestle, Coca-Cola, Sony, and Samsung.
First, let's have a look at per capita income. So, per capita income actually carries the meaning measure of the amount of money earned by each person or individual in a nation. Per capita income helps to determine the average per person income in order to evaluate the standard living for our population. Next, growth rate. So, growth rate is the percentage of change in the value of all the goods and services produced in a nation during a specific period of time in comparison to earlier period. Growth rate is used to measure the comparative health of an economy over time. Other than that, growth rate is also used to measure the change in a nation's gross domestic products. However, for nations that mostly rely on foreign earnings, gross national products might be used instead of gross domestic products.